Joe Biden gives another speech in which he does not take questions at the end. We're going to look at some of that speech here. We're going to talk a bit about some of what's going on with that and the situation in Afghanistan. In other news, Governor Cuomo is gone. He is done. He is no more. So we'll talk a little bit about his replacement and what the news media is saying about him. The California recall is in full swing, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that, including an interesting situation with ballots and a less than desirable person in possession of many of them. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. And I have found possibly the dumbest article that I have ever seen. It's going to be at the end of the show, so stick around for that. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and I mean, this isn't as loaded of a show as we usually have, but it's definitely loaded with stupidity. That's for sure. So we are going to talk about all of it here. Wow, there's just some articles I can't believe actually exist right now. People took the time to write some of this shit that we're going to see today here. But we'll get through it all. We'll figure it all out. And we'll see where the news stands at this point here. Over here on Contemporary. But before we get started, head on over. Check out my friends over at the upcoming project that we're creating here. So the project isn't out. I can't tell you the name of it yet. But it will be coming here down the pipe somewhere in the very near future. So go ahead and check that out once it's up. But still, go check out The Porch Boys, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. Go check all those programs out. They'll be coming back from the Freedom Scoop Media Group over to our new project. Go and hang out with them. They're great people. They're great programs. They all live stream, so you can comment in along. Meet some great friends in the live chat, and go and hang out there. So go and check all of them out and help me support great creators. All right, let's get into the marketplace, shall we? Let's change the scene here. And we will start by looking in at the Dow for the morning. Looks like the Dow had another up day, but it was a roller coaster of an up day. I was kind of relieved that it wasn't just another day where it just shot up at the futures contracts and stayed steady throughout the day, like somebody behind the scenes was manipulating it. It actually looks like we actually had some trading going on yesterday. So it stayed and kind of sat steady after the futures dropped a little bit, came up a little bit, and then dropped back down again. I'm not sure what's driving the drop here, but we'll look into IBD and see what they had to say late yesterday off of that. There were no current IBD articles out there today, so we'll look at what they had to say at the close yesterday and go from there. Your Bitcoin is at 48,266.20. We get a quick refresh on that and see what it did overnight. 47,745.60. So it does look like that's kind of retreating here a little bit too. So what do I always say? Go grab it while it's on sale, because once we start seeing those 50, 55, 60,000 marks, then people are going to be wishing they grabbed some of it here. But that's what we're seeing coming back off of that for now. Looking in at your IBD article for the morning. Oh, your metal prices. Not IBD yet. We got to look at metal yet first. Copper spent another day up on the rise, so copper futures and copper prices are balancing back out. Bear Bright, copper tubing, flashing copper, thin wire, brass shells, number one steel, those are all up. Aluminum siding is down, but looks like aluminum rims, batteries are up. Cats are down because people are bringing in way too many catalytic converters at this point. Computer parts well, I guess they're holding a little bit steady here. And several of the other aluminum pieces are just sitting out there, some going up, some going down. So a lot of motion here in the metal industry, but that's what we're seeing coming back up out of that. Alright, let's get the monitors up here so I can see what you guys are saying here. Then we'll get into IBD here for the day. Alright, from IBD. Dow Jones gains, Tesla stock up despite Elon Musk confession. Airbnb zooms past buy point. From Michael Larkin. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed higher, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed at record levels. Tesla gained despite Elon Musk confession, while Airbnb surged past a new buy point. Dow Incorporated and Goldman Sachs were the top blue chips. JD.com led a cluster of China stocks higher. Finally, a trio of stocks staged breakouts: Shoe Carnival, Trex, and Kansas City Southern. NASDAQ gains as small caps lead, Dow Jones edge up. The NASDAQ was leading the major index of the day, hitting a record as it closed up 0.5% of China stocks. NetEase was one of the biggest gainers, rising about 9%. The S&P 500 also gained, finishing up 0.2%. Best Buy was the top performer, closing up more than 8% on earnings. Seagate Technologies lagged the most, falling about 6%. There was a balance of winners and losers among the S&P sectors, with energy and consumer discretionary rising the most. Real estate and consumer staples performed the worst. Small caps were the top performers of the day. The Russell 2000 finished with a gain for the day of 1%. It fell more than 2% last week. Growth stocks also outperformed the major indices, with the innovator IBD 50 rising a more moderate 0.7%. It is continuing to pull away from the key 50-day moving average. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones Industrial Average made the weakest gain of the major indices, inching up 0.1%. Dow Incorporated was the top gainer on the Dow Jones today, rising almost 2%, the slim gain enabled by the commodity chemicals company to retake its 50-day line, an encouraging sign. Goldman Sachs was another big winner, rising just under 2%. The stock remains in a buy zone after previously passing a flat base entry of 393.36. It looks to have snapped a downtrend. Johnson & Johnson was the biggest laggard, giving up around 1%. Nevertheless, it remains in a buy zone above a flat buy point of 173.75. So those are just some of the movers and shakers through the day, because this is a late last night article here. We're not going to have the futures, unfortunately, but we will go from there. Let's see what MarketWatch has to say, and let's get into the news of the day. From MarketWatch, NASDAQ 15,000, just another stock market number or something else? From Mark to Camber, it is 15,000 and counting for the NASDAQ Composite Index. The popular index was launched back in 1971 and has been considered to be a bellwether for the information technology sector, the future of the American economy, and it's ringing up a notable round number milestone on Tuesday that took the Dow Jones Industrial Average more than a half-century longer to achieve. 15,000. The NASDAQ Composite took 136 days from its last milestone of 14,000 to close at 15,1980, marking the longest stretch before knocking out a 1,000-point landmark since the 335 session between 8,000 and 9,000 back in 2018 to 2019, according to the Dow Jones market data. To be sure, despite the plodding move by the NASDAQ Composite to 15,000, anyone with a passing familiarity with arithmetic would note that such an achievement becomes less impressive the higher the market advances. The move from 8,000 to 9,000 was a 12.5% rise for the NASDAQ Composite, compared with the 7.1% rise to 15,000 this time around. But it is worth busting out a 15,000 hat and banner and popping the bubbly. Art Hogan, Chief Market Strategist at National Securities Corporation in New York, told MarketWatch on Tuesday that there is something to be said for the psychological impact that achieving a round number has on the psyche of the American watching the market movements and in sentiment for investors. Round numbers are always important because it brings the story of the market to the people who don't watch it every day, Hogan said, noting that news stories on the achievement of stock indices are heralded with more gusto on such occasions. It may be one of the only stories that Aunt Joan is going to read tomorrow, the National Securities Corp strategist explained. That said, this milestone, also the 29th record closing high for the Nasdaq Composite in 2021, comes with the added benefit of records for the broader market index too. The S&P 500 is marking its 50th all-time closing high of the year at 4486.23. What trading on Tuesday tells us is that it's a reaffirmation that while there are plenty of concerns on stimulus money going away on the Delta variant, companies are growing their earnings and their revenue, Hogan noted. It is a great opportunity to remind bears and people who don't track markets for a living that the market is moving along nicely. Tech stocks in particular have been whipsawed in recent weeks and months as concerns about the Delta variant and rising treasury yields have caused a steady and uneven rotation out of investments that were expected to perform well during the pandemic to stocks that might do better as the economy reopens. Financial conditions thus far have been favorable to rising asset values, with the Federal Reserve expected to move slowly in tapering its monetary policy accommodations and interest rates projected to hold at a range between 0% and 0.25% for at least until late 2022. The Delta variant, however, has created some questions about how smoothly the U.S. economy will transition back into any semblance of normalcy. It is far from apples to apples comparison, but it took the Nasdaq Composite 50 years to achieve 15,000, while it took the Dow 117 years when it hit 15,000 in 2013. So, with that, we're seeing some of this, and I mean, people are coming out and celebrating that the tech sectors are coming out and, hey, we hit 15,000 here. It's a miracle. We came out of the Trump economy. Oh my God, look at this. And I mean, I'm seeing in the chat and I'm seeing it here that some of this is fueled by stimulus money. People going out there because they got their free stuff, either their unemployment, their free gifts from the federal government, or the stimulus checks. And at some point, this is going to run out. I mean, Biden's right now urging, because after September 6th, those benefits are done. But he's still urging people to come out there and, hey governments, hey, we sent you recovery money. Use that for unemployment because you didn't use it for the cops like I told you to. So use it for enhance your unemployment. Just please keep these people out of work here because we can't let people be self-sufficient here. What? Come on, man. Come on. But we will see what happens with that. And with that, we close the finance segment of the morning here. And we are going to start by actually listening to the houseplant in chief. So we're not going to do the entire 13 minutes of this video here. We're going to jump around a little bit, listen to some of the stuff that he had to say with this. But we'll start off just the way he was going here. And I want to point out, and I'm going to get up and grab myself a can of Bang here while we're listening to the first part of this. But for full 5 minutes, a full 5 minutes of the speech that was supposed to be an Afghanistan speech, he didn't talk about that. He talked about other shit. The situation is deteriorating, but he had to come out and start it. Oh, our economy is going great, and I built this, man, and come on. And this is after he was 2 hours late on all this, too. He was supposed to be on at, when was Stick starting to talk about? He was supposed to be on at like noon, 12:30 noon, Central Time, 1 Eastern Time. I didn't even hear the speech live because I was in the middle of doing other shit. And I thought he was going to be on at least 1 o'clock my time. But he wasn't. He skipped back out on that too. But they finally got him drug up to the podium to come back and talk after they got all the press people in there and got them to wait. And they'll sit back and wait for this guy forever. But he had this to say.
On the Build Back Better agenda here at home. We just got off the telephone with the leaders in the House. Today, the House of Representatives taken significant step toward making a historic investment that's going to transform America, cut taxes for working families, and position the American economy for long-term growth. When I became president, it was clear that we had to confront an immediate economic crisis, the most significant recession we've had since the Depression, or at least since Johnson. But that wasn't going to be enough. We also had to make some long-term investments in Americans and America itself. The first thing we did was to write and pass the American Rescue Plan, and it's working. Our economy has added 4 million jobs in my first 6 months in office. Economic growth is up to the fastest it's been, the fastest rate in 40 years, and unemployment is coming down.
I step up for a second. And he says something that I just finally realized the irony of. He's talking about. He starts the speech talking about the American Rescue Plan, as we're having a debate as to whether or not we can actually rescue Americans in the Middle East. That just dawned on me, like right now.
Right now, our economic growth is leading the world's advanced economies. But to win the future, we need to take the next step. Today, the House of Representatives did just that. Today's vote in the House allowed them to consider my Build Back Better agenda, a broad framework to make housing more affordable, bring down the cost of prescription drugs by giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for drugs, make elder care more affordable, provide 2 years of free universal high-quality pre-K and 2 years of free community college, provide clean energy tax credits, continue to give the middle-class families the well-deserved tax cut for daycare and health care that they deserve, allowing a lot of women to get back to work primarily, and provide significant monthly tax cuts for working families with children through the child care tax credit. These investments are going to lower out-of-pocket expenses for families and not just give them a little more breathing room. In addition, we're going to make long overdue, much-needed investments in basic, hard infrastructure of this nation. This is an area where we have broad bipartisan agreement to invest in our antiquated roads, highways, bridges, transit, drinking water systems, broadband, clean energy, environmental cleanup, and making our infrastructure more resilient to the climate crisis, and so much more. And this is all paid for. Instead of giving every break in the world to corporations and CEOs, by the way, 55 of our largest companies in America paid $0 in federal taxes on more than $40 billion in profit last year. We can ask.
That has been debunked numerous times at this point, so I don't know why they continue to try to trot this out. Now, it is true that in the majority of the situation, corporations don't pay a lot of their taxes. That gets passed along to you, but they still write a check into the government every year. America's biggest companies, they don't pay any taxes. Oh, by the way, they also donate to my campaign.
Ask corporations and the very wealthy just to pay their fair share. They can still be very wealthy. They can still make a lot of money, but just begin to pay their fair share. So we can invest in making our country stronger and more competitive, create jobs and raise wages, and lift up the standard of living for everyone. The bottom line is, in my view, we're a step closer to truly investing in the American people, positioning our economy for long-term growth, and building an America that outcompetes the rest of the world. My goal is to build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not just the top down.
Okay, we are at the 3:26-minute mark, which is where I'm going to start skipping here, but we are 3 minutes and 26 seconds into a 13-minute and 5-second speech. Not even that, because, part of this is him running for the fucking door. And we haven't said a word, a single word about what happened in Afghanistan, or what's happening there right now. Also, before we got any further into this, I do want to point out the fact that, check out that ratio right there. But yeah, let's skip up a little bit here.
Those election bills. But let me now turn to Afghanistan.
4 minutes and 56 seconds. And that's what this speech was billed for, by the way, too. It was billed to be an Afghanistan speech. This was billed for him to come out here and tell the world about the situation in Afghanistan. And he took almost 5 full minutes before he even mentioned the country that we are currently embattled in.
I've met this morning with my counterparts in the G7, as well as heads of the United Nations, NATO, and the European Union. I express my thanks for the solidarity we have seen as we've stood up an unprecedented global effort. I updated our partners on the significant progress we made in the past 10 days. As of this afternoon, we've helped evacuate 70,700 people just since August the 14th, 75,900 people since the end of July. Just in the past 12 hours, another 19 U.S. military flights, 18 C-17s and 1 C-130 carrying approximately 6,400 evacuees, and 31 coalition flights carrying 5,600 people have left.
So you have approximately airlifted the entire population of the city of Janesville, Wisconsin, out of Afghanistan in 14 days. Why did we have that many people over there? We were pulling out. Were you thinking we weren't going to pull out of the place? Is that why we were keeping that many people over there? That's the biggest question I have about all this, is why were there that many people there yet at this point?
We'll judge them by their actions, and we'll stay in close coordination on any steps that we take moving forward in response to the Taliban's behavior. At the same time, we renewed our humanitarian commitment to the Afghan people and supported a proposal by the Secretary General Guterres of the United Nations-led international response with unfettered humanitarian access in Afghanistan. Third, we talked about our mutual obligation to support refugees and evacuees currently fleeing Afghanistan. The United States will be a leader in these efforts, and we'll look to the international community and to our partners to do the same. We're already seeing our allies' commitment. They're bringing to their countries the Afghans who served alongside their forces as translators or in their embassies, just as we're bringing to the United States those Afghans who worked alongside our forces and diplomats. We're continuing that effort. We're conducting thorough...
And that's going to be the question I have. Are we going to have another refugee crisis? Because we've seen all this before. This is not something new. And right now, of course, they're running refugees to Virginia and Texas and up here in Wisconsin. Given where Fort McCoy is, I'm not sure how that's going to go over. I'm not going to lie. I know Fort McCoy. I am familiar with it. I drive by it all the time. I'd like to think that they can integrate into the community, but, well, the joke in Wisconsin is you know you're from Wisconsin if half your friends are Lutheran and the other half are Catholic. So, yeah, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know why we still had that many people over there, but we're going to skip to the end of this and we're going to talk about some of the rest of this here. Let's go back about to let's go there.
Today by a clear statement on all of our parts. We are going to stay united, locked at the hip in terms of what we have to do. We'll get that done. And tomorrow, I've asked Secretary Blinken to give you an update and a detailed report on exactly how many Americans are still in Afghanistan, how many have gone out, and what our projection is. So thank you again, and God bless you, and may God protect our diplomats and all those in harm's way. Thank you.
Mr. President, can you guarantee every American will be out before the troops leave?
Sanctions,
Can you
Mr.
guarantee?
President, did sanctions come up at all in the G7 meetings?
Bye-bye. Let's back that up just a second there, because I want... Listen really close, and I'll see if I can bump up the volume. No, I am peaked out on that at this point. But listen real close at the end here, after that thing goes. Did he say Abe Lincoln?
Sanctions,
Can you
Mr. President,
guarantee?
did sanctions come up at all in the G7 meetings?
Did you hear that right there? That result right at the end? Like, we are not taking any questions right now. We are out of here. We're done. Yeah, he just turns around and he is gone. Poof. There is a Joe Biden-shaped cloud of smoke right there where he was once standing, because Well, no, he can't get out of there that fast because he can't fucking move that fast. But regardless, yeah, there's no questions off of this. And the media didn't say a word. Like, this was one of the hardest I actually went to the YouTube. I try not to use YouTube on YouTube because that is just asking for a pop. That is just asking for a content strike to go and use this video on YouTube. And if they do come back and tell me that I got a content strike, I will give them the finger and I will say, no, I'm going to use it anyway and fuck yourself. Hopefully it is modified enough that we're not in violation of anything. But regardless of that, yeah, that's... There were not clips of this on the Daily Wire. There were not clips of this on CNBC. There were not clips of it. They don't want you to know that this speech happened, which I'm actually guessing was part of the reason they moved it back 2 hours too. So more people will be frustrated, or like me, where I was expected to listen to it at 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then, okay, my shipment comes in for the day at 3 o'clock, and I had no idea, no indication of when this guy was going to come on. So I could either sit there and listen to the Washington Post on YouTube, where democracy goes to die in darkness, for 3 hours and listen to their propaganda fucking spew, or I can go on and do something better with my day and, oh, hey, maybe I just got home after work today and forgot about the fact that the president was supposed to speak. They don't want you to know about this kind of shit. They don't want you to know that he just runs for the door, or slowly shuffles, whichever he can do at this point. But yeah, that resounding deadbolt. And I understand that there's White House security that's involved with that, and they do have to do that. And the Secret Service insists that they have these big, heavy locks on the doors. But just that right there that is a metaphor for this presidency. Come out there, spread a few lies, spit a little bit of propaganda, and as soon as it's done, lock the door and don't let anybody see what's off of there, going on in the background. And what gets me is that they went out and they've gone after previous presidents for being opaque, for being for obfuscating what's actually happening behind the scenes. And yet there he goes, just walks away and click, you're done, you're gone. So that's what we see coming back up out of that. Let's get into some of the news of the day here. Reading from ABC 7. Biden decides to stick with August 31st Kabul pullout as Afghanistan airlifts continue. From Robert Burns, Ellen Nickmeyer of the Associated Press. U.S. President Joe Biden declared Tuesday he is sticking to his August 31st deadline for completing risky airlift of Americans endangering Afghanistan's and others seeking to escape Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. The decision defiles allied leaders who want to give the evacuation more time and opens Biden to criticism that he caved to the Taliban deadline demands. Dude, do not tell Biden that he has no balls, because he will do something stupid. He has Alzheimer's. I am usually an advocate. I'm the first one to get out there and get on, like Twitter, and call out my friends, or actually even be out there in real life and call out my friends and say, hey, you won't do it. You ain't got the balls. Do not, with a capital N-O-T, tell Biden he has no balls. Please. I don't want to see any Americans killed over this. And he will do something stupid. Every day we're on the ground is another day we know ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both us and allied forces and innocent civilians, Biden said at the White House, referring to the Islamic group's Afghanistan affiliate, which is known for staging suicide attacks on civilians. He said that the Taliban are cooperating and security is holding despite a number of violent incidents, but it's a tenuous situation, he said, adding, we run a serious risk of it breaking down as time goes on. The U.S. in recent days has ramped up its airlift amid new reports of rights abuses that fuel concern about the fate of thousands of people who fear retribution from the Taliban and are trying to flee the country. Biden said that he had asked the Pentagon and State Department for evacuation contingency plans that would adjust the timeline for full withdrawal should that become necessary. Pentagon officials expressed confidence that the airlift can get all Americans out by next Tuesday, the deadline Biden had set long before the Taliban completed their takeover, but unknown thousands of other foreign nationals remain in Afghanistan and are struggling to get out. The Taliban, who have wrested control of the country back nearly 20 years after being ousted in a U.S.-led invasion after the 9/11 attacks, insist the airlift must end on August 31st. Any decision by Biden to stay longer could reignite a war between the militants and approximately 5,800 American troops who are evacuating the airlift at Kabul airport. In Kabul, Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid told the news conference that the U.S. must stick to its self-imposed deadline, saying that it won't let the Afghans get taken out. On evacuation flights, he also said the Taliban would bar Afghans from accessing roads to the airport while allowing foreigners to pass in order to prevent large crowds from massing. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they're not real interested in letting their new people, which that's probably not what they're looking at these people as, but they're not really interested in letting their new subjects get the fuck out of the country. I'm sure that that's not something that's interesting to the Taliban right now. In Washington, the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, the red-haired bobblehead, said Biden, whose handling of the hastily arranged evacuation has been roundly criticized by Republicans and Democrats alike, announced during the meeting of fellow leaders of the G7 industrial nations that he planned to stick to the August 31st deadline. British, French, and other officials argued for extending the deadline. Officials said, well, then do something about it. See, the British and the French are begging the U.S. to come out and extend the deadline because they don't think they can get their people in there, but they don't have the military capability to do it themselves. They want to say, go on, Joe. Go. No. You tell them that we're not doing it this way. No, you get in there. No, you tell them. We'll be waiting right over here. Good luck. As the Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said, August 31st leaves enough time to get all Americans out, but he was less specific about completing the evacuation of all at-risk Afghans. He said about 4,000 American passport holders and their family members had been evacuated from Kabul as of Tuesday. We expect that number to grow in coming days, Kirby said. He also said military would have to start moving troops and their equipment out of Kabul several days prior to August 31st in order to be out entirely by then. It is unclear how many Americans who want to leave are still in the country, but their status is a hot political topic for Biden. Some Republicans bristled Tuesday that the U.S. is seeming to comply with the Taliban edict. We need to have the top priority to tell the Taliban that we're going to get all of our people out regardless of what timeline was initially set, said Representative Steve Scalise of Louisiana. Okay, Steve, you're not fucking helping here. Not that you really help much anyway. I mean, the best thing that you did was expose a violent Bernie supporter as a violent Bernie supporter. That's probably one of the best things you've done in office at this point. But regardless, we look at this here, and there's an extent. Now, I understand standing up and telling people who think that they're an authority what their place actually is. I do understand that idea. But you're coming to this from a point of weakness because the deal that was initially brokered of May 1st, you've already broken. Not only that, but you've broken the deal and then gave millions and billions of dollars worth of weaponry to the people who would start executing our own people. Now, had we gone out and flattened and bombed and nuked the shit that was over there, and turned our air bases with the equipment over there into a glowing sea like we should have done in the first fucking place, you'd have been at a little bit more of a position of strength to come out and say, no, we're moving this deadline because we're not turning this all over to you until we get every last one of our people out, and you can go and fuck yourself if you think otherwise. Now, mind you, yes, they would still probably go out and start executing people one by one. But now they've got the firepower to start executing people 10 by 10. You have bungled this, and you had better fucking pray to whatever God will still accept you, Joe Biden, that you can do this by August 31st. Because otherwise there will be blood on your hands, even though the mainstream media will cover it up. Alright, let's keep going. The Five blast Biden's meaningless news conference. Does he internalize what he's saying? No, he has no idea what he's saying. From Charles Kreitz. President Biden appeared emotionless and stilted during, well, that's mostly the drugs that they pumped him full of, and stilted delivering remarks during his news conference prioritizing Democrats' multi-trillion-dollar spending bills before speaking briefly about the intensifying crisis in Afghanistan. I will give him credit and push back against Fox News, mostly because I fucking hate Fox News, but I will give him credit and push back against them and say, no, he actually did spend the majority of that speech talking about Afghanistan. I would have liked it if he would have started and not actually talked about the other shit right now, because as much as I think that we need to talk about that and talk about the fact that the Democrats basically passed this bill under the dead of night, we do need to talk about that, but that is the job of the mainstream media, not the president. You see where we're going for this and see whose role is fucking what here? He did spend the majority of that speech talking about Afghanistan. Host Dana Perino, formerly the press secretary for W, criticized Biden's delivery, the prioritization of his political policy agenda over the Afghan crisis, and his refusal once again to take questions from the press. Did you actually think he was going to? I knew he wasn't going to take questions from that from the very first moment that we found out that he was giving the speech. Like, I actually wanted to watch the speech so I could watch him run away. Not necessarily because I believed anything that he said from that speech. I just wanted to watch him run away again, because that is an incredible meme and an incredible allegory for what this administration is. I screamed a little when he started with Build Back Better. I get it. Democrats passed it in the House with their razor-thin margin, $3.5 trillion in spending. That will saddle you for the rest of your lives. But other than that, she began, you cannot try to say your domestic agenda is more important than the international crisis you're supposed to be handling. And, as a mainstream news outlet, he's not supposed to be talking about that anyway, because you're supposed to be ignoring the budget process. So that, you guys have been given a gift from God. You can ignore what the neocons want to do and spend us back into fucking oblivion while we sit back and talk about the crisis in Afghanistan in which we've spent ourselves into fucking oblivion. She wondered aloud whether Biden is actually thinking about or considering the words he is reading from the teleprompter, or if he's essentially reading a prepared script. You know the answer to that, Dana. You know the answer to that. Why are you asking the question? You already know the answer to that. This is bullshit. I don't want to read this anymore. Fuck off, Fox News. You suck. From NBC. Speaking of things that suck. Biden sticks to August 31st Afghan withdrawal deadline as U.S. speeds evacuations. From Courtney Koob, Peter Alexander, Kelly O'Donnell, and Lauren Egan. President Biden said Tuesday that the U.S. is on track to meet the current August 31st deadline to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, leaving a narrow timeline to finish evacuating Americans and Afghan allies. Speaking from the White House Tuesday afternoon, Biden said the timeline depended on the Taliban's continued cooperation in allowing people to access Kabul airport. Biden said he asked the Pentagon and the State Department to prepare contingency plans to stay in Afghanistan longer if it becomes necessary, but that he was mindful of the increased risk of military conflict. I think I need to reset my router. It keeps dropping back out of there for a second, and I'm sure that you guys keep seeing the spinning wheel of death temporarily here, so we have big apologies for that. After we had the power outage, I think that's giving me little hiccups in my internet. So after the show, we'll go and do that. Speaking from the White House Tuesday afternoon, Biden said the timeline depended on the Taliban's continued cooperation in allowing people to access the Kabul airport. Biden said he asked the Pentagon and the State Department to prepare the contingency plans to stay in Afghanistan longer if it becomes necessary, but he has been mindful of the increased risk of military conflict. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, in spite of the fact that we broke a promise to the Taliban to be out by May 1st. They have been increasingly benevolent to let us get all the people out by the end of August. Really, honestly, after a 20-year occupation, if I was at the head of the Taliban and I had extremist Islamic views and a raggedy old man who didn't know where he was half the time came up to me and said, "Hey man, hey, will you let me get my people out of here?" I would say, "Fuck you." I said, "No, get your shit and get out. We will deal with what happens with the people later, but get your shit and get out. We'll have a conversation about this, but no, fuck you." They have been extremely more hospitable than I would be in this situation. Maybe it's like somebody holds up their end of the bargain. That's a novel fucking thought. "We are currently on pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better," Biden said. Each day of operation brings added risk to our troops." After a chaotic start, the pace of the evacuations has increased in recent days, but officials have previously expressed skepticism that everyone seeking to leave will be out by the deadline. Yeah, I've got questions about that. Biden has faced criticism in the recent weeks at home and abroad for his handling of the withdrawal after the Do you blame him? After the Taliban rapidly took control of the country, sending Americans and Afghans who had aided the war effort scrambling to leave the country and escape the hardline group. So, this is basically NBC kissing Biden's ass. We can watch some video from the red-haired bobblehead on her portion of the press conference. Psaki claims Biden-Afghanistan crisis is a success and appears to admit admin expects some will be left behind. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was grilled during Tuesday's press briefing by Peter Doocy, because of course it's Peter Doocy, over the administration's disaster in Afghanistan. Let's have a listen.
Okay, and I know that you said yesterday it's irresponsible to say that Americans are stranded in Afghanistan right now. What do you say to the American citizen in Kabul that Fox spoke to this morning? Her name is, she's going by Fatima. She says, "We are stranded at home for 4 days, 3 days. We didn't hear anything from anywhere, and they're saying to go to the airport, but we're not being given clear guidance. Our emails are getting ignored."
Well, why don't I convey to you exactly what we are doing? And I think what's important to note that I also said yesterday, in the full context of my answer, which I put out today, was that we are committed to bringing Americans home who want to leave, and that is the president's commitment. So let me explain to you how our process works, and there have been some very good questions, including from you and from others, about this. One, as we've said, this is a dynamic number. We're working hour by hour to refine and make it precise. Understand your desire and interest in having an exact number of American citizens on the ground, and the State Department, I expect, will have an exact update on that tomorrow. Just to remind you, the U.S. government does not track our citizens when they travel around the world. We rely on self-reporting, not just in Afghanistan, anywhere in the world. People have to decide to register or not. It's up to them, individuals, whether they decide to register or not, wherever they may be. And if you register when you're in a country like Afghanistan, you aren't required to deregister. The State Department also issues alerts. They have publicized phone number and email to contact if you're in Afghanistan and want assistance to leave. And for months, the department has been telling Americans to leave Afghanistan for their own safety. It is our responsibility and our role to work with and help American citizens who want to leave.
Psaki responds with a banquet kitchen-sized word salad. That is probably one of the most apt comparisons to what she just said I've ever heard. After Doocy finished, Doocy countered with fire. "You say no Americans are stranded. This is someone in Kabul who says I'm stranded. So is there a better word for someone that can't leave the house to get to the airport because Jake Sullivan says ISIS is outside the airport?" Let's listen.
Let me finish. I'm almost done, and then you can ask a follow-up question. In recent days, they have reached out to every American citizen registered in Afghanistan directly multiple times. This is a 24/7 operation. Embassies all over the world are supporting phone banking, text banking, and email efforts. If we are not in touch with this individual, give me their contact information and we will get in touch with them. If any of you are hearing from American citizens who can't reach us, give me their contact information and we will get in contact with them. Our estimate of the overall number of American citizens who are there can increase because folks are just now responding to our outreach who may not have registered. It can also decrease because people leave. They don't tell us they leave, or individuals who may reach out and convey they have the documentation needed don't. So there are a range of factors here, and it's our responsibility to give you accurate information.
But
that's what our focus is on.
You say no Americans are stranded. This is someone in Kabul who says, I am stranded. So is there a better word for somebody who can't leave the house to get to the airport because Jake Sullivan says ISIS is outside the airport?
I would welcome you providing their phone number, and we will reach out to them today, and I can assure you of that.
Just tell us what. I do have questions about that too. Like, first and foremost, why is I might be answering my own question here, but why is anybody reaching out to the press pool before they reach out to the government or the embassy or something? But I also understand the fact that this government isn't exactly, shall we say, warm to take phone calls right now. Plus, they're already getting overwhelmed by that. So I'm sure these people are reaching out to anybody that they can. And then the last one that we'll do here is this one, as thousands of Americans are stranded in Afghanistan. Jen Psaki says she wouldn't describe the withdrawal as anything but a success.
I would say that this is now on track, Peter, to be the largest airlift in U.S. history. And that is bringing American citizens out. It is bringing our Afghan partners out. It is bringing allies out. So no, I would not say that is anything but a success. I would say that this is now on track.
It's a success, you guys. It is a success. Well, time will tell, I guess. We'll see if Biden is right, or Schiff is right, or Psaki is right, or who's going to be right on this one. But I will only consider it a success, by the way, if you get everybody out who wanted to get out. Not that I really want the refugee crisis here. I'm going on the terms that you usually set forward. We can get everyone out who wants to get out. Don't worry, these people helped us out here. Well, time will tell. From the New York Post. Dem GOP reps make secret Afghanistan trip angering U.S. officials. So this was interesting. This popped up on the Blaze right before I got started here, and I wanted to make sure that we touched on this one. This is from Sam Chamberlain over at the New York Post. 2 members of Congress caused a stir when they made an unannounced trip to Afghanistan Tuesday to witness the evacuation operation at Kabul's International Airport firsthand. Representatives Seth Moulton and Peter Meyer infuriated White House, Pentagon, and State Department officials who accused them of using vital resources in the midst of the chaotic American withdrawal. Moulton, DMAS, and Meyer, R. Michigan, warned in a joint statement that U.S. forces won't get everyone out on time even if the withdrawal deadline is pushed to its original September 11th date. As members of Congress, we have a duty to provide oversight on the executive branch, the 2 said. We conducted this visit in secret, speaking about it only after our departure to minimize the risk and disruption to the people on the ground, and because we were there to gather information, not to grandstand, something the current administration doesn't really know anything about. The 2 lawmakers, both military vets and members of the House Armed Services Committee, remained at Hamid Karzai International Airport for several hours after arriving on a military flight from the United Arab Emirates. The journey angered admin officials, the AP reported, because Moulton and Meyer did not give a heads up to diplomats or military commanders, directing ongoing efforts to get Americans and their Afghan allies out of the Taliban-controlled country. The Associated Press reported that the military found out about the trip as the lawmakers' plane was approaching Kabul early Tuesday morning, U.S. time. There's Seth Moulton today with Rep. Meyer. I visited Kabul airport to conduct oversight on the evacuation. Witnessing our young Marines and soldiers at the gates navigating a confluence of humanity as raw and visceral as the world has ever seen was indescribable. It's as moronic as it is selfish, one official told the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness. They're taking seats away from Americans and at-risk Afghans while putting our diplomats and service members at greater risk so they can have a moment in front of the cameras. You fucking disingenuous bitch. I don't even know if that's a dude or a chick, but you disingenuous fucking bitch. You know why you're mad about the fact that they went over there. I know why they're mad about the fact that they went over there. Hell, the people who are picking up the radio transmissions on Omicron Persei 8 or whatever the hell the next galaxy is over there in 1,000 years, the people who are picking this up at that point, know why they're mad about this. Everybody knows why they're mad about this. You know why they're mad about this? Because somebody else has laid eyes on this that's not in the executive branch and can tell the story outside of what the narrative is. Because the Biden admin can come out and very carefully craft a narrative using the mainstream media as their fucking pawns. They can come out and carefully craft a narrative. Oh, look, no, we've got everything orderly up here. And now we've got witnesses who have eyes on this, who have seen it. And they're coming out and saying that we can't get everybody out here, even by September 11th. And we have 6 days. 6 days to do it. That's what they're mad about. It has nothing to do with taking a seat away from a good diplomat or an ambassador or somebody, an Afghan desperate. No. It is about trying to make sure that the narrative comes out to the American people the way it does. And that's part of the reason this is buried out on the New York Post or over on The Blaze, and you didn't see a story like this on NBC. From CBS, I think this is going to be mostly the same information. From Caitlin Yellick, 2 congressmen secretly visited Kabul during evacuation efforts. 2 members of Congress secretly traveled to Kabul as the U.S. evacuates tens of thousands of Americans and vulnerable Afghans after the country fell to the Taliban. Seth Moulton, a Democrat, and Republican Peter Meyer, both Iraq War veterans, made stealth visits to Hamid Karzai International Airport on Tuesday to conduct oversight on the evacuation, their offices, and in a statement after they departed Afghanistan. There's no place in the world right now where oversight matters more. We've conducted this visit in secret, speaking about it only after our departure to minimize the risk. Yeah, this is the same information. Looks like it almost came from the same source. Maybe it's just a paraphrase from the Associated Press. So we'll skip this one. Kind of goes against the narrative I just pushed that nobody in the mainstream is talking about that though. So whoops, that's on me. This one, I couldn't believe that this isn't the dumb one either, by the way. It gets dumber at the end of the show. But this one, you knew this was going to come up at some point here. Republicans are pouncing. Reading from Vanity Fair. Republicans are weaponizing Afghanistan chaos to get ahead in 2022. That's right. Don't criticize dear leader. Don't come out and say, we botched this up. Maybe we need to do better if we want to do better in 2022. It's no, Republicans are weaponizing this to get ahead in 2022. From Eric Lutz. For the first 6 months of Joe Biden's presidency, Republicans struggled to land a punch on him. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious? Republicans struggled to land a punch on him. The policies they tried to attack were popular. The public health crisis he inherited was receding. And really? Because you were just panicking a couple days ago about the Delta variant. And while the opening chapter of his term was frequently beset by gridlock, his opponents had little but recycled culture war nonsense to throw at him. Really? You're going to spend us into fucking oblivion and you're going to try to say that it's the culture war that you're having a problem with? Jesus Christ. But the chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal, the GOP appears to have sensed an opportunity. Ending the forever war may have been the right call, but the timeline of the pullout may have been inherited from Donald Trump. But Biden and his admin undeniably have a mess on their hands. They have got a bigger mess than just the Afghanistan withdrawal on their hands. And the Republican political machine is wasting no time making it a centerpiece of their attacks ahead of next year's midterm elections. As Axios pointed out on Monday, the Trump-aligned American First Policy Institute has already created a spot featuring Taliban insurgents taking over the Afghan capital. Another conservative group, Citizens United, is running on an ad likening the chaos in Kabul to the withdrawal from Saigon in 1975, a situation Biden and other officials vowed wouldn't happen in Afghanistan. But that played out as the country collapsed, and more is on the way as 2022 and 2024 cycles approach. Desperate images from Kabul are certainly film ready, and when we get to the voter contact stage of this cycle, GOP operative Jeff Rowe told the outlet, "Are you fucking kidding me? Failed to land a punch off of this. This guy has failed at every corner of everything that he's had to do. He kept DC occupied by a military force for 4 months after his inauguration. 4 months. Razor wire fencing and National Guard troops occupied Washington, D.C. in squalid conditions, eating raw meat. You have begged and pleaded to let us spend trillions upon trillions of dollars on nothing. This whole Delta variant thing and the vaccine rollout, that thank God you inherited Project Warp Speed, so your people, the people that worship you and sit at your altar, have something to go and berate people they don't like with. I saw something on Twitter today. Some girl says, "Oh, there's not going to be a COVID civil war with the unvaccinated. All I have to do is go spit on them." No, you don't understand COVID, but whatever the fuck. No, there is plenty to go after with this administration. Republicans finally have something they can use against Joe Biden. What, that he hides in the basement and he doesn't come out? He takes a lid whenever he fucking doesn't want? Whenever he doesn't want to do something, he's going to spend us back to oblivion. We have had inflation at 5.4% for months in a row. There's nothing to go after this administration for. You can go and fuck yourself. Alright, let's shift gears here. Let's talk briefly about Kamala Harris. VP Harris's Vietnam visit delayed by possible case of Havana syndrome. From Courtney Subramanian. Vice President Kamala Harris was delayed from traveling to Vietnam on Tuesday after her office was made aware of a possible case of so-called Havana syndrome, a mysterious illness that has afflicted U.S. diplomats across the world. A statement released by State Department said Harris's office was made aware of a report of a recent possible anomalous health incident in Vietnam's capital city of Hanoi, referring to what the U.S. government has previously described as Havana syndrome, a string of unexplained health incidents first reported in 2016 by U.S. diplomats and embassy staff in Cuba. After careful assessment, the decision was made to continue with the vice president's trip, the statement said, without offering any further detail. NBC News reported at least 2 U.S. diplomats will be medically evac'd from the country after people have experienced anomalous acoustic incidents over the weekend. A State Department spokesman declined to confirm the medical evacuations out of privacy and security concerns, but said they were aware of reports of possible unexplained health incidents in Vietnam. The spokesperson said that while the agency can't discuss the individual cases, all individuals who report an unexplained health incident get the care they need, to include medevacs when appropriate. Press Secretary Jen Psaki later emphasized no cases have been confirmed, and the incident in question was reported to the embassy staffers before Harris arrived in Vietnam. No one traveling with the vice president was affected, she said. Harris was wrapping up a 3-day trip to Singapore, where she delivered a foreign policy speech accusing China of coercion and intimidation towards military provocations in the South China Sea. She also announced the U.S. is offering to host the East Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in 2023 as a sign of U.S. commitment to the region. So this is interesting, and I mean, I'd never heard of Havana syndrome until, this year. I'm still not completely sure what it is, but it seems to be popping up a little bit more and more as we go around the world and we start talking about stuff here. So I want to do some research onto this and figure out what's going on with it, and figure out if there is an actual pandemic we need to be concerned about, rather than just the common cold that seems to be going around the world now. But that's what we see coming off of that. All right, let's shift gears into another politician, starting with NBC News, and this is an op-ed. Susan Del Percio. New York Governor Kathy Hochul inherits Cuomo's mess and a historic opportunity. From Susan Del Percio. At the stroke of midnight, Kathy Hochul became not only New York's 57th governor, but also its first female governor, and Hochul, the former lieutenant governor, has already announced her intention to run a full term next year. It's a strong, gutsy move, showing she is not only ready to take over Albany, she is committed to staying in Albany. Hochul is likely to find out sooner rather than later, however, that governing New York is easier than being elected governor of New York. Hochul, a former member of Congress who hails from Buffalo, will have about 10 months to demonstrate she is capable of running the state, but how she weathers this crisis might not matter if she doesn't have the political savvy needed to win the Democratic primary next June. Also, what mob bosses she can do favors for. Obviously, Hochul is inheriting a mess, with Governor Cuomo having resigned in disgrace following a scathing investigation into reports of bullying and misconduct. But Hochul was never really been part of Cuomo's inner circle. In fact, she has wisely emphasized, while many imagine the governor-lieutenant governor relationship as a partnership, she actually had very little interaction with the governor's office when it came to policy decisions or even the state's COVID-19 response. Governing New York is a tough job, and Hochul is obviously working hard to set the right tone, promising, when my term ends, nobody will ever describe my term as toxic workplace environment. Hochul must walk a fine line as she attempts to restore the dignity and efficiency of the governor's office, while recognizing the insights of the many talented and capable state employees who had nothing to do with Cuomo culture. So, there it is. She is the governor at this point. I don't think it's as hard as you think to be elected governor in New York. It is a matter of grease the right palms and go to the right boroughs in New York City, because, I mean, fuck what upstate has to say. All your votes are going to come from New York City. End of story. I don't know if there's enough population in upstate. Unless the current incumbent is really, really unpopular with New York City. I don't know if there are enough votes up there to shake this up. There's a lot of nothing in upstate New York. I've driven through it. It's a long drive. That's a boring drive. That's a pretty drive. Very much is. But it's a very, 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 very long one, with not a lot to look at. And I've never been down to the city either. But there she is, the governor of New York. And she's already moving in, doing what she needs to do. From Politico, A Woman's Place, How Albany Might Change Under Hochul and Her Colleagues, from Anna Granewald. As Kathy Hochul began her second term as lieutenant governor in 2019, she shared her playbook on succeeding in the male-dominated domain of politics. I've often been called an iron fist in a velvet glove, which I take as a compliment. Hochul said in an Instagram video, I embrace the strengths and assets of my femininity, but also I won't back down from a fight. Hochul, 62, was sworn in as the first woman governor in New York State on Tuesday, giving her an opportunity to put her philosophy into practice on the state's grandest political stage, but things have changed since 2019. For the first time, women will outnumber men in Albany's upper echelon of power. She will join Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins of Yonkers, the first woman to lead a legislative chamber in Albany, in high-level talks with Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie of the Bronx. Hochul's ascension has unfolded in the wake of a sexual harassment scandal, as well as a more general reckoning about sexual and cultural politics in Albany and elsewhere, and it comes after a new generation of women politicians has made its mark in Albany, not only by confronting the capital's infamously masculine culture, but by assailing Hochul's predecessor, Andrew Cuomo. Younger, progressive legislators such as Alessandria Biaggi of Westchester, Jessica Ramos of Queens, and Elaine New of Manhattan made their mark in Albany by directly challenging Cuomo, a fellow Democrat, and the culture that he personified. It was almost unheard of breach of protocol, but now feels like a foreshadowing of the sort of change the new governor represents. So, that's all I care to read for this as well. Here's the bottom line. Now, I don't have a say in New York State because I don't live there. I mean, really honestly, I don't go there either. It's a long drive. It's boring. I will probably be there somewhere in the near future. I really want to go back to Mass for a couple days. I'm not going to go live there again for a couple years because fuck that. But I want to go back there for a couple days, go see some people, go hang out with some people. Just actually see some really cool people that I have not seen since I moved out of there back in 2008. I'd really, really like to do that, honestly. But as far as New York goes, as far as any politics goes at this matter, and I said the same thing about Harris, I really don't care what's in your pants. Can you effectively execute the Constitution of your state? Can you bring business and opportunity into your state? Can you grow your state's economy? And can you make your people of your state prosperous? If you can meet those 5 things, if you can meet those 5 requirements, I don't really care how you pee if you stand up or sit down when you take a leak. That doesn't matter to me. That shouldn't matter to anybody. I know, like my friend Steven will say, no women in power, no more women politicians. And I can actually understand the argument for that. But really, honestly, it's a matter of, it's pragmatic to me. If you can execute and bring your ideas and actually bring prosperity to there, I don't care how you pee. But apparently this is a big deal for the people over at Politico. From the Associated Press. Hochul vows swift action as she takes the helm in New York. From Marina Villanove. Kathy Hochul became the first female governor of New York on Tuesday, and in her first hours on the job sought to bring a sense of urgency to tackling the big problems that went unaddressed during Cuomo's distracted final months in office. In an afternoon speech, which she laid out her initial priorities, the Democrat promised swift action to improve COVID-19 safety in schools, fix for broken aid programs for people hit by the pandemic, and improved government ethics. Hochul said she was directing state health officials to make masks mandatory for anyone entering public or private schools. Her administration will also work, she said, to implement a requirement that all school staff statewide either be vaccinated or undergo weekly pinko fucking pox testing. None of us want a rerun of last year's horrors with COVID-19, Hochul said. Therefore, we will take proactive steps to prevent that from happening. Oh, does that mean that if we actually sail a Navy ship up there and park it in your harbor, that you'll send the COVID patients there instead of the fucking nursing home? That if you have a pop-up hospital come up in the park, that you'll send your COVID patients there, not into the nursing home with grandma. Hochul pledged quick action to unstick an application bottleneck that has kept federal aid money from flowing to renters who suffered financially because of the pandemic. She said she's readying the state to distribute vaccine booster shots when they become widely available, including possibly reopening mass inoculation sites. And she said New Yorkers can expect new vaccine requirements, though she didn't specify what those might be. More on that soon, she said. Well, this will be interesting to watch, and I'm sure that because she is the first female governor of New York, we're actually going to get a lot of airtime on this one. I guarantee we're going to get at least some airtime on this particular governess. But it does seem like she's going to be doing iron fist top-down control, which is what I've criticized DeSantis for, by the way. No, fuck the legislature. I know better. I'm going to do it my way. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see where it goes. Let's grab one from WIVB4 out of Buffalo. COVID in schools. Expect mask mandates, vaccine requirements statewide. New York Governor Hochul says. From Lauren Cook. Safely reopening schools amid the COVID-19 pandemic is a top priority for New York's newly sworn-in Governor Kathy Hochul. The governor on Tuesday outlined several ways she plans to ensure children safely return to the classroom in September, including plans for a mask mandate and vaccine requirement. I'm ready to get to work as your governor to solve the big problems that the state faces. Your priorities are my priorities, and right now that means fighting the Delta variant. The deadly Delta variant! None of us want a rerun of last year's horrors with COVID-19, therefore we will take proactive steps to prevent that from happening. Hochul said she directed the State Department of Health to implement a universal masking policy for anyone entering school buildings. The state is also working toward implementing a program requiring the COVID-19 vaccine or weekly testing for all school personnel across New York. To accomplish this in New York, we need partnerships with all levels of government, and I'm working now on getting that done, Hochul said. New York City announced Monday its public school teachers and staff need to be at least partially vaccinated by September 27th. There is no testing option. Which I'm kind of curious now because I've also heard there's a teacher shortage in New York. So, I mean, what position do you have to come back and say that? Do you want to have 70 people in a classroom in some of your inner city schools? Which I'm sure there already are, but, take some teachers away and see how well that goes. Additionally, the state will launch a convenient and widely available back-to-school COVID testing program for students and staff, according to the governor. Hochul said a more concise and consistent school-related policies will be announced later this week. Priority 1, we get children back to school and protect the environment so they can learn and everyone is safe. Hochul outlined her top priorities as governor during a virtual address to New Yorkers on Tuesday afternoon, hours after she was sworn in to replace Andrew Cuomo following his resignation. So, well, I guess the Iron Fist has hit the table. Anybody got any popcorn? I kind of want to watch this. But I can do it from afar because I live all the way over in Wisconsin, where our Democratic governor got neutered by the Republican legislature. And there is not enough urban land and urban representatives to take over the legislature right now. There's not. They have no hope. All right. From Politico. Cuomo loses Emmy following scandal resignation. So I remember this from a couple weeks ago, actually. You guys were actually asking the question. Because he's going to be resigning, is he going to lose his Emmy? Here's your answer. He lost his Emmy. From Nick Niedswadijk. Former Governor Andy Cuomo has been stripped of the honorary Emmy given to him for his COVID briefings last year. The International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences announced the revocation on Tuesday, hours after he stepped down as governor in the wake of sexual harassment scandal. The Academy awarded Cuomo its Founders Award in November because the handlers and the people out there told them to. In recognition of his leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic and his masterful use of television to inform and calm people around the world, according to the press release issued at the time, Cuomo's public standing soared in the early months of the pandemic, based in large part on media coverage, and media covering up the fact that he put grandma in the nursing home with the teenage COVID patients who were probably going to survive. According to the press release issued at the time, Cuomo's public standing soared in the early months of the pandemic, based in large part because of the seemingly informative briefings stood in contrast to the confused messaging from then-President Trump. Cuomo's name will not be removed from the organization's records. He's no longer useful and he's going to be disappeared. This is 1984. Give it a couple months and people will be saying, who's Cuomo? Who's Andy Cuomo? We've never heard of that person. Why are you asking about that? I'm going to tell the Ministry of Propaganda on you. He uses it, Quest, because it seems to stream better and he gets less buffering over there is why he uses it. And he's got a potato for a router, so anything that helps him limit buffering helps all of us get the message out. That's why he uses it. Plus, we need to have somebody watching over there, filling up the chat with stuff. Yes, memory hole. That's the word I was looking for, Quest. All right, let's go to the other side of the country. From KTLA 5, 300 recall ballots, drugs, multiple driver's licenses found in vehicle of passed out felon, Torrance police. From KTLA digital staff and Mary Beth McDade, Torrance police are investigating the discovery of hundreds of recall election ballots in a vehicle where a felon was found passed out with drugs, a loaded firearm, and multiple driver's licenses 1 week ago, authorities said on Monday. Approximately 300 ballots were recovered from one vehicle, which was parked in the lot of a 7-Eleven convenience store on the night of August 16th, according to the Torrance Police Department. Officers discovered a loaded firearm, meth, thousands of pieces of mail, a scale, and multiple California driver's licenses and credit cards that were in other people's names, a police news release stated. Xanax pills were also located on the unidentified male subject, who authorities described as a felon. He was arrested on a number of offenses, including weapons violations, narcotics, and forgery violations. Providing an update on the case Monday, police said the department's Special Investigations Division has partnered with the U.S. Postal Service and the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office's Public Integrity Unit to look into the matter. Investigators are trying to figure out how the election ballots ended up in the suspect's vehicle and what their intent was in having them, police officials said in a statement. This is an isolated incident, nothing to see here, and is not related to any additional thefts of election ballots. Wait, there's more? There are more thefts of election ballots? No further details about the incident have been released. The discovery came the same day that absentee ballots were mailed out to registered California voters for the upcoming September 14th recall election of Governor Gavin Newsom. Any voter whose ballot was determined to have been taken in the theft will get a new one prior to the election, according to the police. They reminded community members to report any suspicious election activity by calling 310-328-3456. Which doesn't actually go to the police department, it actually goes to a DNC call center, and they decide whether they want to send it over to the police or send it over to get memory hold. Depending, of course, whether it was a Republican or a Democrat that did the Hong Kong voter fraud. But don't worry, there's no such thing as voter fraud, and nothing bad ever happens in mail-in ballots. Just don't worry about that. It never happens. I want to know, and I heard about this because Styx talked about it yesterday, and he raised an interesting question. I want to know the same. Were the ballots filled out? Were they pre-filled out? Did he fill them out? Were they getting ready to go and be dropped off of here? And I mean, yes. Larry Elder is possibly, if Gavin Newsom gets recalled, Larry Elder is in a prime position to be the next governor of California. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but he is in the prime position right now to take it, if it does happen. The odds are ever in his favor at this point. And with the media coming out there and telling you that, yes, Larry Elder is Hitler incarnate, and he's going to be tough on crime, and he's going to put everybody who isn't a white, straight male into prison. You know, that's what the media is trying to tell you about Larry Elder right now. So this guy hears this, where he's got generally lax on crime. Gavin Newsom, who's letting him go out and live his life and do whatever the hell he wants to do. Or you've got Larry Elder, who is evil incarnate and hates criminals and anybody who isn't a white male. Yeah, I can see where this guy might want to go do something. But I do wonder also, you know, he was paid to go back and do this. But Hong Kong, that never happens. Actually, can I say that about this election? I know I can't say that about the 2020 election, which was the most popular election in history, and Biden Hong Kong got the most votes of anybody ever because 2020 was the most successful and most secure election in history, where nothing bad happened in Hong Kong. But I do want to know if he got paid by operatives to do so, even though that never happens. Don't ban me, Susan. All right, that's what we have for that. Let's talk a little bit more about California here. Newsom on elders' climate change views. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. From Josh Haskell. I think Gavin's a little bit scared, actually. I really do. With just 3 weeks from the final day of voting in California's recall election, 1 million ballots have already been returned. According to Political Data Incorporated, 56% of ballots returned are from Democrats, 22% are from Republicans, and 22% are from people with no party preference. In an interview with ABC News in the Calder Fire Zone in Northern California, Gavin Newsom went after Larry Elder on climate change. With all due respect, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about when it comes to the issue of climate and climate change. Gavin, do you know that as a white male, it is racist for you to question the ideas of a black male? Oh wait, Gavin's a Democrat. No, we can't do that here. Simultaneous challenges, some would say simultaneous crisis, stacked on top of each other. That's why I don't think it's the right time to have a recall to get in the way of them. I'm sure you don't think it's the right time to have a recall. We need progress, we need focus, we need energy. You can't put policies in place, Gavin Newsom, to provide energy. We've seen what happens at the end of summer when it gets hot as fucking balls in California every year. A UC San Diego study found voter turnout is older and whiter for off-cycle elections compared to on-cycle statewide and national elections that happen regularly. And of course, the Hong Kong happens over there too, Hong Kong. In off-cycle elections, voters tend to be 67% white, but that drops to 57% in on-cycle elections. Newsom said the key to defeating the recall is Democrats closing the enthusiasm gap for Republicans. Dude, I don't think, with the number of signatures that you got, that this is all a Republican-led effort. That's why they do it. Off year, off month, when no one's really paying attention much, he said. It's an extension of the big lie, the same... Jesus. If he says anything dumber, the headphones are coming off. Same forces, Republican forces that are behind us. Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer campaigned in downtown LA Tuesday proposing the establishment of a new state agency to address homelessness. We intervene and we say you can't sleep in a tent in front of somebody's house or in front of somebody's business, and we remove that tent and we say we'll give you a ride to the shelter. We're going to give you that help and support because we found that folks, particularly if you're high on heroin or meth, you're not going to make the right decision, said Faulconer. In-person voting starts in LA County on September 4th. So if you're in California, go recall Newsom, because he sucks. What else do we have here? Ron be gone. So this is going to be completely objective. Breaking! New poll shows that 51% of Floridians think Ron DeSantis is putting his political ambitions ahead of everyday Floridians. Let's read from Florida Politics. From Scott Powers. Different Worlds Democratic poll finds Florida voters polarized over freedom, health, Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis tops Charlie Crist, Nikki Fried, Marco Rubio leads Val Demings. Florida voters are at odds over beliefs regarding Ron DeSantis, freedom, COVID-19, and other divisive issues, a Democratic group found in a new poll. The poll from Future Majority, a strategy and research center supporting Democrats and left-of-center causes, was done to provide insight for Democrat campaigns in Florida. It found DeSantis holds leads in head-to-head matchups with Democrat rivals. U.S. Rep. Charlie Crist by 49%, 45%, to 45% rather, and Agricultural Commission Nikki Fried 49% to 44%. But there's almost no cross-party support or opposition for the governor. 96% of Democrat voters polled strongly disapprove of DeSantis' job performance, while 93% of Republicans strongly approve. Yeah, well, he walks the line, too, and he does the partisan thing. So there is a reason for that. He tells them what they want to hear. And he does the pen and the phone thing of, Hey, I got a pen and a phone, and I'm just going to do whatever the hell my constituency wants here. Who does that sound like? And he signs his name on the executive order, and he says, fuck you, legislature, I do what I want. Republican U.S. Senator Marco Rubio leads Democrat Rep. Val Demings of Orlando in a U.S. Senate matchup by 47% to 44% in the future majority. About the only thing Democrats, Republicans, and independent voters seem to agree on is that 98% of all Florida voters say they do not feel represented by elected officials. Among the findings, and this is the interesting, this is one that they're trying to cite off of here. 51% of Florida voters said they believe DeSantis cares more about running for president in 2024, while 46% they believe he cares more about the future of Florida. I think they're onto something with that, honestly. I'm not going to lie. I don't like DeSantis. He has rubbed me the wrong way since I first started seeing him make the rise. And yes, just because I like the outcomes of the decisions that he makes, doesn't mean that I care for the methodology that he uses. "51% of voters said DeSantis puts his political ambitions first, while 45% said he puts the people first." And all this poll really did, by the way, was this gave another wall of propaganda that Democrats can throw out on Twitter and say, well, 49% of people in Florida have their heads up their asses if they don't see it. That's all that this did, and further divided Florida. All right, from the New York Post. We're almost done here. Thanks to everybody who chatted in, by the way. Let's see, from the New York Post. Inked Up. This is fucking stupid. Oh my god, is this ever fucking stupid. We're getting into the point of this program that's getting very, very stupid, so stick around for really stupid stuff here. Especially that end one here. Inked Up. Man gets tattoo of COVID-19 vaccine QR code on his arm. There it is. Don't worry, it's not the mark of the beast. Don't worry, they're not going to put a tattoo on you. At least it's on his left arm, though. So they can't do it'll be on your right hand or on your forehead. Afraid you'll lose your vaccination card? Then why not get a tattoo of it? Well, that's exactly what Italian Andrea Colonnetta did. The 22-year-old student opted to get his COVID-19 vaccination QR code tattooed on his arm just in case he forgets to bring it with him. Wow. Proof of vaccination is required in most Italian indoor venues, telling the Corriere della Calabria newspaper. Colonnetta said, "It's certainly something original. I'd like to be different." No, people have been getting barcodes tattooed on them for a while. "Certainly, they encourage me to be less impulsive and to better reflect on things," he told the publication. His ink went viral after one of his friends was able to scan his arm with his phone to see the proof would actually come up digitally. A video of the exchange was posted on his TikTok, and many were amazed at the feat. In another video, Colonnetta used his tattoo to eat indoors at a McDonald's. You are not making this any easier to say that this isn't the mark of the beast, you dumb fuck. You want conspiracy theorists to say that this is the COVID vaccine is the mark of the beast? This is how you get conspiracy theorists, right here. And the amazing part is that it works. But don't worry, it's not a cult. Yeah, different as he brands himself as a sheep. Exactly. I'm speechless on this one. The Nightbot says more about it than I do. Alright, from Fox 10, Washington jail offering inmates ramen noodles as incentive for getting COVID-19 vaccine. From Ashley Jackson, digital content producer. And amazingly, they use the best ramen flavor there is. If you've never had, I'm actually going to go get some after seeing this here. If you've never had creamy chicken ramen, it is the best one. And don't just, put water in there and put the packet in there. Put a little bit of milk and a little bit of butter in there, and while you're boiling the noodles, throw an egg in on top of it. Let it steam in there. Put a few veggies in there too. It's delicious. The creamy chicken is really the best flavor. And there is no comparison. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about the clear winner for the best flavor of ramen. We're here to talk about what the Washington jail is doing. So this is from Ashley Jackson. Inmates at a Washington state jail can stock up on free packs of ramen if they get vaccinated against the pinko pox. Earlier this month, the Benton County Jail in Kennewick announced it would give inmates 10 free packs of the popular commissary item as a vaccine incentive. Flyers posted on the jail walls advertised the deal with the slogan, "Soup for Shots." The Olympian reported. To encourage and support COVID vaccination efforts, the Benton County Department of Corrections will be providing each inmate that starts their vaccination series with 10 free ramen noodle soups, the poster reads. So far, the jail has given out 900 packs of ramen to 90 inmates. Benton County Corrections Chief Scott Souza told the Olympian, "We're doing everything we can to incentivize vaccination, and we're getting an outstanding response," Souza said. All right. I've never tried it with broccoli. I might have to try that. All right, from Ars Technica. Florida man catches COVID, delaying $6 million Arizona vote audit. From Tim DeChant. In a development that's sure to fan the flames of 1,000 conspiracy theories, a report from the presidential election audit, because they can't be objective, has been delayed because the pinko pox has swept through the private company running the show. The team expected to have the full draft ready for the Senate today, but unfortunately, CyberNinja's CEO Doug Logan and 2 other members of the 5-person audit team have tested positive for COVID-19 and are quite sick, Arizona Senate President Karen Fann said in a statement. It's not clear whether any of the people were vaccinated against the virus. Though state Republicans launched the spectacle, politicians from both parties have panned the so-called audit. Election experts have called the exercise deeply reprehensible, saying that it more closely resembles a clown show than an audit. Well, so does anything else involving the government at this point, so why would this be any different? The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, all of one of whom are Republicans, said in a letter, "Your auditors are in way over their heads." The company doing the audit, CyberNinjas, does not have any experience auditing elections, and its CEO does not appear to be nonpartisan. He has tweeted "Stop the Steal" and voiced his support for former President Trump. "I'm tired of hearing people say there was no fraud," he said in a tweet archived by the Arizona Mirror. The company is legally based in Florida, though CNN discovered that its business address sits vacant, while the address on its contract with the Arizona Senate is a rented UPS mailbox. I just want to see the results. Not that anybody's going to really care about this. I mean, this well has been poisoned from the beginning. What's going to be really funny is if the results go the Democrats' way, then they're going to come out and, after they said that this was all invalid anyway, they're going to come out and celebrate and run around and say, "Oh, yeah, see, even CyberNinja said we were right." But you just spent the last 6 months discrediting them and saying that there was no way we could believe what they said. "Oh, no, we were right all along, and there was nothing there." But as far as the MAGA people that believe that whatever CyberNinjas finds will overturn the election, it won't. It never will. The House Plan Chief is president from the moment he set his hand on the Bible and I promise to uphold the thing, man, and that's what we're gonna do, and so help me that guy up there. He was the president, and there's nothing constitutionally anybody can do about it. Even if they find Hong Kong in all 50 states, there's nothing that could be done constitutionally to install President Trump. They could impeach Biden. They could take Kamala with because she ran on the same ticket. But then it would be President Pelosi. It wouldn't be overturn the election results and give the victory to Donald Trump. Even if they find Hong Kong in all 50 states, even though they couldn't because this was the most secure election in history and Biden got more votes than even Barack Obama. But I just want to see the results at this point. All right, from the Blaze. Maybe you're not that bright. Alex Jones turns on Trump over his comments on vaccines, from Carlos Garcia. Talk show host Alex Jones bashed former President Trump after he advocated that everyone should go out and get vaccinated. Jones voiced the disappointment in his InfoWars talk show on Sunday after Trump told supporters at his rally in Alabama to get vaccinated. Shame on you, Trump. Seriously. Hey, if you don't have the good sense to save yourself and your political career, that's okay, said Jones. At least you're going to get some good Republicans elected, and we like you, Jones continued. But my God, man, maybe you're not that bright. Maybe Trump's actually a dumbass. I will eat your ass! Jones was a friend and supporter of Trump before he became president and has defended his policies through his term. The conspiracy theorists also riled up protesters at the January 6th demonstration that led to rioting at the U.S. Capitol. No, he did not. That was proven false. He said that Trump was following the command of the people in the media when he recommended the vaccines. CNN snaps their fingers. Jeff Zucker snaps his fingers and Trump clicks his heels and he hops up there and at attention and says, "How high do you want me to jump, boss?" Jones angrily continued. Trump's suggestion at the rally was also met with some booing from the audience. You know what? I totally believe in your freedoms. You got to do what you have to do, but I recommend take the vaccines. Oh wait, that's Trump. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines, said Trump. No, that's okay. All right, you got your freedoms, Trump replied after some booing. But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know, okay? I'll call up Alabama and I'll say, hey, you know what? But it is working. Well, you've also had the pinko fucking pox before, so you have the antibodies for it already. Often take your vaccine. And Alex Jones turning on Trump. All right, just a couple more here, then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head out of here. From CNN. Supreme Court won't halt court order forcing Biden to revive Remain in Mexico policy. From Tierney Sneed. The Supreme Court on Tuesday declined the Biden admin's request that it put on hold a lower court order requiring the revival of the Remain in Mexico policy. The court's 3 liberal justices publicly noted that they would have granted the request to halt the lower court's order. The controversial policy forces migrants to stay in Mexico as they await their U.S. immigration court dates. It was suspended at the beginning of the President Biden's term and formally terminated months later. Texas and Missouri sued to challenge the Biden admin's termination of the program. Earlier in this month, U.S. District Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, a Trump appointee, said that the Biden admin violated the Administration's Procedure Act, which requires that agencies take certain procedural steps when implementing policy in how it went about unwinding the program formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocol. So, that is going on. That's going back off of there, so I'm guessing there's going to be some scrambling in the State Department to make that all happen. Instead of releasing people into the interior over here, so watch for that to become a major crisis and the news media to cover that back up. All right, 2 more. Man beats woman with metal stick on Brooklyn subway station. There's no audio here. I don't know why I turned the music down. I don't know if they're going to show the guy beating the other dude, but they got his face out there. So if you see something, say something, apparently. A man wielding a metal stick bludgeoned a 58-year-old woman on a Brooklyn subway station platform. Police said the attack happened Friday at 8:30 a.m. in the northbound platform of the Church Avenue G train station in Kensington, police said. The victim was waiting for the train when the fiend came up and to her and...
Is it Williams?
Shut up, you. When the fiend came up to her, bashed her with the stick multiple times in the head, leg, and arm, according to the NYPD. The battered strap hanger was taken to the Methodist Hospital and treated for bruises and pain, the cops said. Police released security video of the middle-aged suspect who was wearing a black t-shirt and with an egg and bacon image and multicolored shorts during the apparently unprovoked beating. He remains at large. So that's what the dude looks like. No provocation, no indication that the victim knew the assailant. No, nothing like that. Just another day in New York. And people want me to go there. Alright, and now for quite possibly the dumbest news article I've ever seen in my life. Quite possibly the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. Anywhere on the news. Are you ready? Man photographed as baby on Nevermind cover sues Nirvana, alleging child porn. From Chris Willman. Spencer Eldon, the man whose unusual baby portrait was used for one of the most recognizable album covers of all time, Nirvana's Nevermind, filed a lawsuit Tuesday alleging the nude image constituted child porn. The album cover depicts Eldon underwater in a swimming pool as a then infant with his genitalia exposed. The image has generally been understood as a statement on capitalism, as it includes the digital imposition of a dollar bill on a fishhook that the baby appears to be enthusiastically swimming towards. Non-sexualized nude photos of infants generally are not considered child porn under law. However, Robert Y. Lewis, Eldon's lawyer, offers an unusual interpretation of the image to argue that it crosses the line into child porn, writing that the inclusion of currency in the shot makes the baby appear like a sex worker. What is this world? What is this world? I can't with these people. I can't. What? Why? Why do you do this to me, news cycle? Why? Please explain this to me. Why do you do this, American society? Why do you do such stupid things? Why do you create such irony? Please explain this to me. Please do. I am listening at this point. Because I can't wrap my fucking head around this. This is beyond dumb. And I don't... Why? Defendants intentionally and commercially marketed Spencer's child pornography and leveraged the shocking nature of his image to promote themselves and their music at his expense, read the lawsuit, filed in the U.S. District Court's Central District of California and obtained by Variety. Defendants used child porn depicting Spencer as an essential element of a record promotion scheme commonly utilized in the music industry to get attention, wherein album covers posed children in a sexually provocative manner to... What? Are you fucking serious right now? What in the hell? What is sexually provocative about that picture? Other than the fact that you could see Eldon's fucking junk. Which I did disagree with after I found out. I came to the Nirvana train late. I did. And I disagreed with the fact that you could see the junk on the album cover. I thought they should have put the baby in a fucking diaper at least. I know they didn't have Little Swimmers at the time, but still. To gain notoriety, drive sales, and garner media attention and critical reviews. The cover art subject, who, like the Nirvana album itself, is now 30, is asking at least $150,000 from each of the defendants, who include surviving band members Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic, Courtney Love, the executor of Kurt Cobain's estate, Guy Oseary and Heather Perry, managers of Cobain's estate, photographer Kurt Weddle, art director Robert Fisher, and a number of existing or defunct record companies that released or distributed albums in the last 3 decades. Curiously, the original Nirvana drummer, Chad Channing, is also named as a defendant who was part of the group at the time, even though he had been replaced by Grohl in '90 before the album was recorded or the cover photography shot. Eldon has repeatedly recreated the pose as a teenager and adult, diving into pools to pose with swim trunks on occasion of the album's 10th, 17th, 20th, and 25th anniversaries. However, in most of the interviews accompanying these photo shoots, he expressed deeply mixed feelings about being famous for the Nevermind cover and whether he was exploited by it. Until now, despite his ongoing ambivalence about the photo's legacy, he hasn't described it as pornographic. No, of course not. Of course not. Because now he can make a fucking buck off of it. What was constant in the past now is that Eldon has said he was never compensated for the photo beyond the $200 his parents were paid for it on the day of the shoot. In previous interviews, he said he's tried to get in touch with Grohl and Novoselic on a friendly basis, but never got a reply. A possibly new contention in the lawsuit is that Eldon's parents never even signed paperwork allowing the use of the image. Neither Spencer nor his legal guardians ever signed a release authorizing the use of the images of Spencer of his likeness, and certainly not of commercial child pornography depicting him, reads the suit. So, I mean, it's weird enough for me, because I understand the reasoning that they did this. It was supposed to be, even back in the 90s, they spoke out against capitalism, and the baby swimming to go and chase the dollar. That was the point that they were trying to put out with the album cover. And it's ironic that now this kid, 30 years old, is going out and chasing the dollar. He found a way to get a quick fucking buck and he's taking it. What is wrong with this world? What is wrong with this? This broke me. Now I have to come up with something I'm thankful for. This broke me. I don't know what to say. I've got no words for this right now. Anyway. Yeah, there's that. I can't do anything with this. This is... Alright, let's head out of here for the day here. So the last thing we do on Wednesday is something that restores my faith in humanity, something that I'm thankful for. And, well, I'm going to give another thanks to one of my friends, Jessica Green, who, for whatever reason, doesn't watch this program. I'm going to get on her about that at some point here. But, she did insist that it was important for me to start going back to church, and I have been doing a little bit more of that as we go along. That's been one thing, definitely for sure, that I've been wanting to do more of. Get more community-minded. And, I've gone back. I had to skip the 1 week because of the family emergency, but I went back last week and, going into a Wells church for the first time and knowing how my church was growing up. I mean, they've embraced the community. They recognize me already, which, I mean, it's not hard. I'm probably the only guy there with long hair. But other than that, they recognize me. They come in, and the community's already starting to form. The people in the church are already starting to come in, ask questions. Hey, are you new to town? Are you new to the church? Are you just a guest? Are you staying? And even the guest pastor came in and recognized the fact of this is somebody who's not necessarily here for that. And starting to have community. That's what I wanted off of this. I can study the Bible at home, but to be a part of the community, to learn more about the people, to maybe even put myself in a position to run for office at some point here, because I do see problems here. That's what I'm thankful for this week, for the push to go back and do something like this. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to start to get to know some people in town, start to talk to people. Maybe we'll start to actually have some conversations. I know I work a lot, but regardless, it's time to actually put down a root here because I love this town. And now that my ex-fiance and I aren't getting married anymore and moving out of town, I do want to stay here. I like it here. I won't tell you what town it is, but I like it here. I really do. But with that, my brain is broken by this Nirvana article. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go get something to eat and go to work. And try to deal with the fact that, well, Variety fucking broke me. Let's change up the track. All right. So, thanks everybody who came by and chatted with me in the live chat here. Big smiles on my face after Variety broke my fucking brain. We will be back here tomorrow for more Contemporary, and I'm going to go over and check out the Daily Ignoramus, and I hope that you guys will too. We will see you over there. I'm going to go on the D-Live side because I keep it playing at work so he gets the view. Or not while I'm at work. I don't play it at work. I do listen at work, but I keep it playing on my computer so it gets the view. But I'm going to do it on D-Live because otherwise I get all kinds of autoplay afterwards on stuff that I don't give a flying fuck about and I don't want in my history because it affects my suggestions. So we will go over there and check that out. I will see you on that. Otherwise, we'll see you here tomorrow. Hopefully my brain will be repaired after Variety has fucking broken it. And we can do some more news, some more Afghanistan, and some more policy stuff here. So we will see you then. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.